Hey, I have a crucial update for those living in Columbus and Central Ohio. A major shift in our local real estate market is happening, and this is information you must pay attention to. Institutional investors, those that own over 1,000 houses, are coming for us in the Buckeye State. Traditionally, they've spent their time in areas like California, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, but now they're shifting their focus. And if you live here locally in Central Ohio, this is information you must pay attention to. These just aren't statistics. This is real data that can have a lasting impact not only on your community and neighborhood, but on your own real estate strategy and purchases. Let's dive into the information, but before I do, please hit the like and subscribe button for me. I post a lot of updates about real estate here in Central Ohio, and I appreciate you being here with me today. Let's get going. All right, today we're going to review an article that was published by a guy named Lace Lambert at Resiclub. Resiclub is a fantastic real estate data analytics company and news organization. He puts out tons of articles that focus on topics that, quite frankly, I don't see in a lot of other websites. And he's an Ohio guy. He's out of Cincinnati, used to work for Fortune magazine, now runs Resiclub. I encourage you to check out his website. Shout out to Lace Lambert. Great information. So this is the title of this article is "We've witnessed a significant decline in institutional home buying activity, except in this one Midwestern housing market." So on a national level, we've witnessed a significant decline in institutional home buying. At the height of the pandemic housing frenzy, institutional operators, which own at least 1,000 homes, made up 2.4% of home purchases in quarter two of 2022, or 1 in every 42 home purchases. While in quarter two of 2023, institutional landlords made up 0.4% of home purchases, or just 1 in every 250 homes. However, there is one regional pocket where institutional investors are still busy, and that, my friends, is Columbus. So I'm going to scroll down here to his data, and he lists the top 10 regional housing markets where institutional investors bought the most single-family homes over the last 3 months. Yeah, this article was published yesterday, and he's talking about the last 3 months. This isn't news from 2021. This is right now. Columbus, Ohio, number 1 on the list, 615 homes. Median price paid, $353,000, and median metro purchase price, $305,000. So in other words, the median price in Central Ohio, according to this data, is $305,000. And that's pretty close. I think last month it was like $310,000. So they're very close. But the median price investors paid for houses, institutional investors, was $353,000. So obviously they're paying more than what the median price is usually. And that equated to 10.4% of institutional acquisitions. And the 10% number is what percentage of the Columbus share the institutional investors have. This represents, if you look at all the institutional buying across the United States, what percentage of all their purchases were in Columbus, of all the different institutional investors, and it was 10%, 10.4%. Not only that, if you go down, you can see to the next one, Cleveland, Elyria, Ohio, 203 units, 3.8%. And then scroll further down and you can see Cincinnati, Ohio, 97 units, 2%. So you add those together and you're at like 16% of the market, meaning 16% of the institutional buying market is in Ohio. That just blows my mind, completely blows my mind. So he goes on to say, Columbus, Ohio has been the epicenter of institutional activity during a period where acquisitions have typically come to a crawl, says Jason Lewis, co-founder of Parcel Labs. And Parcel, by the way, I didn't mention at the beginning, they are the ones that curate this data and put it all together, and then Lance has put out an article about it from Resiclub. Acquisitions are heavily concentrated in Ohio, Columbus and Cleveland, 14.2% of all acquisitions to be precise. What's notable about the Ohio markets is these operators are paying more for their homes than the rest of the market. So he says it right there. I mean, when the market median price is $305,000 and the institutional buyers are paying $353,000, Obviously, that's a cause of concern, and that's what he's pointing at here. According to Parcel Labs, 1 in 10 US single family homes bought by institutional operators over the past 3 months has been in Columbus. But why? He goes on to say, I spoke to a few funds that are buying in Columbus. They want to stay under the radar. But the fact is, Columbus is no longer under the radar. The truth is, they are chasing yield and affordability. Not many markets have a good quality of living, are affordable, and can hit a decent profit. While there are cities with yield, you are sacrificing in other areas like crime, lack of income growth, outbound population, etc. Columbus right now checks a lot of the boxes in that people are moving there. They are pro-business and it's affordable to live. And they, institutional operators, can deploy capital. So the question now is, will institutional operators continue to pile into Columbus? And they go on to say, I highlighted this part at the bottom, a market like Columbus and others in the Midwest could see more home price appreciation, excellent jobs, and population growth for first movers. But at some point, unless supply is solved, it will be short-lived. So their theory here is that while institutional investors have entered Columbus and are accelerating their acquisitions here, if we don't build more housing, they won't be here long, or they won't continue to expand because there's no inventory. There's distinct advantages here if you are willing to be flexible. We'll get to that in a minute. So why are they piling in? Why are they actually coming here? Well, obviously they know the economy is booming, jobs are booming, and it's relatively an affordable place to live compared to a lot of other areas of the country. All right, back to the article. There's also the fact that Intel is currently building a $20 billion semiconductor fabrication plant in Central Ohio, says Dan Hamilton, a real estate agent who runs the Cutler Real Estate office in New Albany, Ohio. Intel is supposed to bring 10,000 well-paid direct jobs just outside Columbus proper. That's true. However, I think the number here is understated. In reality, you've got approximately 10,000 construction workers, 3,000 permanent workers, and that's just for Intel. There's going to be an explosion of folks moving in who are going to support companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and all the other technology groups that will work with Intel and set up shop. I mean, Intel is just the tip of the iceberg. And you also have to think there's going to be hotels, gas stations, restaurants, every business that goes along with a massive microchip processing plant. And all that infrastructure has people with it. So they're coming too. This is a game changer for Columbus. Some of my agents have had Intel investor clients buy 5 to 10 properties here over the past year, and they've told us that they invested in Intel areas previously whose home values were around $400,000 to $500,000 at the time. And within 5 years of Intel being here, homes were selling in the $800,000 to $1 million price range. Literally, they said, that's what we expect in Columbus. Now, I have no idea if that will actually happen. So this agent out of New Albany, with Cutler Real Estate is saying that, or I'm sorry, he's a broker, is saying that he has clients that have traditionally invested in the Intel area. So like Arizona and Oregon, where Intel has already built factories, microchip factories. They've invested there and saw their investment go from 400 grand, which isn't far off from 300 grand, I guess, all the way to 800 to $1 million in 5 years. And now they expect, well, why wouldn't that happen again, right? Makes sense. So that's why they want to come here. It's worked before. Now they're just going to repeat the process. Wash, rinse, repeat. I mean, that makes complete sense to me anyway. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but it makes sense if you're an investor. So that's the article. Now, what do you do with this information? So one thing you should know and remember is that these buyers, institutional buyers, they don't like beat up properties and they don't like old properties. They want something that is basically move-in ready or near move-in ready, and they can buy it, put very little effort into, and rent it. They don't want something built in 1900 that needs a new foundation or new electrical wiring because it has knob and tube or lead pipes. They don't want that. They want something that is basically move-in ready. So that can give you an advantage in the marketplace. If you're a home buyer and you're out looking for property, first thing you need to know and be aware of is these guys do exist, so don't be surprised and be ready for the competition. And because you live locally, if you're flexible with your purchase, if you go out and find something that is built in 1920, maybe a duplex, maybe a triplex, heck, maybe even a quad or a single family house, you can find something that needs some elbow grease and sweat equity. You can beat these guys out and still find the house you want. If you're looking just for move-in ready property, you're probably going to struggle. And even more so as these institutional buyers continue to flood the market. They want move-in ready houses. So if you can avoid move-in ready houses or look at move-in ready plus houses that need work, you're going to be a lot more successful than if you just stick to move-in ready houses. Unless you have the cash and the resources and you don't really care if you have to compete with an institutional investor. If you're a home seller, I'd encourage you to stay put. If you can, think twice about selling your house, especially if you have a low interest rate. I mean, institutional investors want houses in Columbus for a reason. So think about that and realize that you probably have a good asset. So don't just squander it. Think about how you can stay there potentially. And that could be by renting it out to someone, or maybe you don't need to move up into your new house. Maybe you don't need to move and buy a new house. But if you have to because of a life change or a job change or something, then do what you can to hang on to your property and maybe use a property manager if you don't want to fool with tenants. But honestly, being a landlord isn't that difficult. If you're an investor, I would encourage you to be flexible, just like a home buyer. Think outside the box. Institutional buyers do not want, generally speaking, beat up houses. So that's where you can come in. And if you're local, that helps a ton. Appeal to your sellers' local side. Appeal to the fact that you're not an out-of-town buyer. You're not a billion-dollar company. You're just a mom-and-pop investor or a mom-and-pop home buyer, and you'd like to buy their property. A lot of sellers, you'd be surprised, there are a lot of sellers out there that don't want to sell to big institutional buyers. They'd rather sell to somebody local. Now, if that institutional buyer is willing to pay a lot more than you are, well, you're probably going to still lose. But if it's anywhere close, or if you have a relationship with the seller and build a rapport, that's where you can have the advantage versus somebody from out of state just throwing a number at them in a contract. So that's my advice for investors. All right, in conclusion, the cat's out of the bag, not only for the institutional investors who know Columbus is a great market to invest in, but also for you and I, because now we're not blindsided and we can't be surprised when we see more and more institutional buying, or you run into them if you're competing for real estate. And other than that, I certainly appreciate you spending time with me this morning. I hope this data helped. I hope you got some value. Do me a favor, hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next video.